All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. So, good afternoon, everyone. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be talking to you about or introducing the person that I'm about to introduce. She is someone that I cannot express with words how much I admire her, how incredible and amazing she is. So I'm just gonna read her bio and let her start because I will just gush and rant about her all day, and she knows this. I just had to get that out. So Naseema McElroy is the founder of Financially Intentional, which is a platform about personal finance and living life intentionally. She discusses how to take control of your finances and how that has enabled her to overcome bankruptcy, divorce, and break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. She shares her lessons along her path to help others benefit from the freedoms of financial independence when she's not just being a total boss and a badass. She is a mother and a labor delivery nurse. Through making six figures a year, she initially struggled with money, and then she finally realized that she could not out-earn her financial ignorance, and she decided to make some changes in her own life. She first shifted her mindset around money, learned how to be consistent and intentional, and ended up paying off $1 million in debt. And now she has a six-figure net worth and did it all under 3 years without living a life of deprivation. So without further ado, I am just so excited to introduce Naseema McElroy.
Hey y'all. What's up, everybody? Hey, thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for the wonderful intro, Ashley, and I'm a fangirl of you as well, hence why you are here on the slides, because I really want to normalize wealth, normalize being a millionaire for nurses, and we're the future. So that's why you're the face. So thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Yale, for having me. I'm super honored, even though I went to a rival school. Well, it is what it is. Yeah, so let's get started. So I want to keep this as much of a conversation as possible because I want you guys to get your questions out. I want you guys to engage. I'm super open and honest. So feel free to ask me any questions that you have, and I'll just start the presentation, just highlighting a little bit of the things I think we could talk about, but let's go. All right, y'all. So this is me. These are my girls, and you'll see the dog's little tail kind of waving in the background because he's being bad during this photo shoot. But I am a labor and delivery nurse. Before I went into nursing, I kind of went into nursing as a second career, and I was in healthcare administration. So I have a master's in healthcare administration. So I did my undergrad in graduate school at the University of Southern California, and then went back after doing about 5 years as a hospital administrator to become a nurse. And I went to UCSF's MEPM program, which is similar to you guys' program. Yes, I am a girl mom. I have 2 girls that think I'm pretty funny and pretty dumb most of the time. But they're awesome. I have a podcast called Nurses on Fire, and I am passionate about financial education for everyone, but especially nurses, especially people of color. And my claim to fame, so to speak, is that when I graduated with all my degrees, and most of it from my nursing program, I had $200,000 in student loan debt. Total, I had over $1 million in debt, which included my house. And over the course of 2 years and some months, after self-teaching myself about finances, really doing a deep dive, I was able to pay off the $1 million in debt. And then I actually built my net worth up to 6 figures in just a matter of 3 years. And I took people along the journey of me paying off debt. That's how I started the platform Financially Intentional. And that's what I continue to do now as I'm on my journey to becoming a nurse millionaire. So now I'm on the path to normalize nurse millionaires. I think that it should be a given that every nurse should retire a millionaire or a multimillionaire. So what we're going to talk about today is why it's your responsibility to build wealth, and why nursing is the ultimate path to the double comma club, and then how we can really like get to the millions, because it's really not that hard. So let's go. All right. So why is it your responsibility to build wealth? All right, you guys. I don't know how you grew up, but I grew up kind of thinking like wealthy people were kind of like these evil people. To be able to build wealth, you kind of had to do shady things, and like it was like something that was really hard to accomplish. And I had to really do a mindset shift, and then realize that like building wealth is way bigger than me. Building wealth isn't for me. Building wealth and becoming wealthy is because of what you can do for other people. It's all about giving back and helping other people. It's just like why we can't wanted to go to school to become a nurse. We don't become nurses for ourselves typically. We become nurses because we want to help other people. Like, what's your why behind that? Also, like for me, becoming wealthy meant that I get to show up at the bedside as a better nurse. I got to be there because I go to work because I want to go to work. Like, it's what I'm passionate about. And you get to serve from a different place when you're coming to work like that, as opposed to you coming to work because you got to pay bills and you stressed out and everything else. Also, it's just about being able to like fully make an impact, fully serve in what you're brought here to do. Like, it's about truly living in your purpose. Okay? It's about doing the things you get to do and not have to do. And really, when you take control over your finances, when you're on that path to being wealthy, not even just getting to wealthy, but on that path to building wealth, you realize that you have so much more control over your life than you thought you did. And just for a personal story for me, a lot of things that this path has allowed me to do is I've been able to leave a marriage where I was being abused. I was able to leave a work environment that was totally toxic and had high morbidity and mortality rates for Black women, and be able to speak up about it and be able to actually take action against that institution. It allowed me to do things for my kids and build wealth for my kids in ways that weren't done for me. It's allowing me to change the direction of my whole family's financial trajectory. All right. So when you think about building wealth, I want you to really think about it from the standpoint of not being this evil, like miser or an evil person with money. It's really about who you can serve. And that's why it's our responsibility to normalize wealth for nurses, all right? And I want you to be like a couple of my friends that I've had on the Nurses on Fire podcast, Lynn, who is incredible. She retired actually at 39, not at 40. 40 just sounds better. But she retired at 39 from nursing. And that's after having a brain tumor, having to relearn how to walk, losing all of her money and rebuilding, and was able to still retire at 39. And then I have another friend, and she like her claim to fame is that she found financial independence because she was just looking for a good beans and rice recipe and then discovered the FIRE movement, and she was able to retire in her 40s from the OR. And so it's possible, but I want to normalize it for us so that we're not anomalies, all right? So why is nursing the ultimate path to the double comma club? Like, I really feel like we have got this game on lock, you guys. If we know how to really embrace the role that we have, the scope of nursing, we can make it work for us. We just have to know what to do with it. All right, so if you guys don't know, FIRE is Financially Independent, Retire Early, and that is a movement that I'm part of, and it's basically being able to maximize your savings. So maximize your take-home pay in a way that most of the money that you're taking home is going to building wealth, is going to investing or paying down debt, things that are going to accelerate your path to being able to invest more. Therefore, you can retire early. So as a nurse, I mean, like, I don't know about you, but everywhere I've worked as a nurse, like, I'm basically able to write my own paycheck because I can work as much as I want to. If I want to pick up more shifts, I can. And a lot of people in the FIRE movement front load a lot of work so that they don't have to work later. So if that means like picking up extra shifts, all that kind of thing, all those kind of things, like, you do that, but you do it intentionally. So you know that you're putting that money into investments that are going to grow and work for you later. There's so many job possibilities. You don't have to be at the bedside. You can be in administration. You can work in pharmaceuticals. You can work for device companies. You can be your own boss. There's endless possibilities when it comes to nursing. I mean, just being a nurse alone holds so much weight. You can do so much. There's also opportunities for semi-retirement and travel. I mean, like, you can work 6 months and be off 6 months. You can totally retire, but then like work a shift a month just so you can get healthcare benefits. And just as being a nurse, and I know because for a short period of time, when I wasn't working as much as I was on my partner's benefits, and oh my God, the benefits suck. So being a nurse, we have amazing benefits. And then we have access to optimizers like a 457. If you're lucky to work for a government institution like me, I have 2 ways to save on my taxable income because I can contribute the same amount of money I can contribute to my 403B, or what other people call a 401k, to my 457, which is a deferred compensation plan. So we have all the levers. We just got to know how to pull them, and we just got to know how to like get the bag. And you guys, it's not really that hard. It really comes down to saving less than you make and investing the rest, and investing religiously, consistently. Okay. So we're going to talk about like, how do you actually get to those millions? And the assumptions that I made in this is that the average age of a graduating nurse is 30, which is kind of high because even like after my second degree, graduated from nursing school when I was like 31. So that's after having a master's and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty broad. And then the average RN salary, I left it at $70,000, even though I think it's a little bit higher now. But I just wanted to show you these figures conservatively so that you know that what's possible. All right, so I put this retirement calculator up here for you. It's through Playing with Fire. There's tons and tons of FIRE calculators out there, but I like this one because it gives you the opportunity to go in there and play with the ages, play with the savings rate, play with how much cash you have. So this is something I want you guys to play with. But like, can you see, like, do you see that 44? Like, just coming into nursing at 30 years old, you can retire at 44. Off of $70,000, off of making $70,000, just by maximizing what you take home and making sure that you're investing. This one, it was with a pretty high savings rate. So in the FIRE community, we like to say that, you know, you should save 50% of your take home pay, which is not, it's not hard to do once you know how to do it. You can be like Ashley and house hack. Like, the biggest things are like cutting down those 2 biggest expenses, which is going to be your housing and transportation. Is not really hard. Even me as a mom, I always have a place where nurses come and stay with me, and they supplement my mortgage or my rent or whatever. But even at putting 15% in this calculator, it increased that number, just increased the number of years just by a couple of years. So this is something that you can play with. But the thing is that the whole acronym of FIRE is like, I really think that it's more about making work optional. I don't necessarily think that I will completely retire, because there's so many opportunities. There's so many things I can do. There's so many businesses I can run, but I don't have to work. And that is the freedom. So as a recap, like I said, I just wanted to keep this really, really short because I want to open it up to questions and I want to talk to you guys. It's like, why is it your responsibility to build wealth? Like, why is it your responsibility? Because wealth should be normalized, okay? And we talked about why nursing is the ultimate path to the double comma club, and then like how easy it is to get to those millions. And I encourage you guys to go to playingwithfire.co to their calculator and use that. All right, y'all. Question time. Let's do it.
Yay. Okay. So in case anyone got here after we kind of laid down some house rules, let's talk about questions. Go ahead and we'll do it how we do for every event. Go ahead, lay them in the chat. I will ask them for Naseema, and then yeah, she'll answer your questions. So first question is, Naseema, you talked about making that transition from, you know, just the normal American lifestyle of just kind of living paycheck to paycheck. It's pretty common. And then you had $200,000 of student loan debt. How did you make that mental mindset shift of saying that you could do this and that you were someone who, you know, was worthy of doing that, and fighting that, what is that word? Imposter syndrome that so many Black people face, and then finding the ability to change the behaviors to match that mindset that you accomplished?
Well, I had a really strong why. And becoming a mom, and I was a single mom by choice. But I had a daughter, and I looked up and I realized that I didn't have nothing for her if something were to happen to me. And I was just like, if I don't do this for me, I have to do it for her. And I just knew, like, I made too much money to be broke. I knew something was broken, and something wasn't broken with how much I got paid. It was something was broken up here, something I had to fix. And what had to change was I had to change my circle of influence. And I'm not talking about I got rid of my friends. I got rid of the things that I was consuming mentally. I stopped listening to music when I drove. I listened to podcasts of people that I aspired to. I listened to stories of people who paid off massive amounts of debt. I listened to people in the community that have done this from humble beginnings. And I said, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's what I surrounded myself with. So it became like, of course I could do this. And then I just got a circle of friends that were on the path, and people that I could actually talk to and relate to. And we were all speaking the same language, and it just became normal. It was what we did. It's what we talked about. So you have to shift that, because that's not how America is set up. Okay. Consumerism is normalized. So I had to normalize for myself that it is my right to be wealthy.
Yes. I'm sorry. I got and so about it. That was a gem. I hope everybody, I'm like still admitting people, I hope everybody just wrote that down, because that was a gem for real. We have another question. They're starting to kind of pour in. How did you pay off? What was your strategy to paying off your 6 figures of student loan debt?
So I'm going to set a disclaimer, and you guys are going to have Travis on in a couple weeks, and he's amazing, but I didn't even do it perfectly. That's the whole thing. I got it done, but I have a lot of, I didn't optimize it. I'm not mad that I paid it off the way that I did, but I could have done it a lot better. And speaking to Travis in hindsight and doing like an analysis, and Travis is of the Student Loan Planner. And if you guys haven't signed up for that, you guys want to sign up for that, because Travis is a flipping genius. But I'll tell you how I did it, and then I'll tell you what I should have done. So I was like a heavy follower of like Dave Ramsey early on. So I did the Debt Snowball, and I incorporated my student loans into the Debt Snowball. Even though at that time I was signed up for public student loan forgiveness, I was in the public student loan forgiveness program. I could have had my loans forgiven, but I was like, you know what? I want to knock these things out. And literally, I did what's called the debt snowball. And, you know, when you have your student loans, there's like usually like 10 student loans within like your student loan your portfolio. And so I just knocked out each one of those loans. So what I had to learn how to do, and what was the biggest shift, was that I had to learn how to budget. And I thought I was budgeting before because I had my Mint app. I thought I was tight and I was in there categorizing my transactions, but that's hindsight budgeting. What I had to do was learn how to budget for my money in advance, and I used another Dave Ramsey strategy, which is called zero-based budgeting. So I gave every single one of my dollars an assignment in advance, and once I did that, I was like, oh my God, like I don't even know where my money was going before, but I was able to prioritize so much money to be able to go towards my debt. And let me tell you guys, a lot of people are like, oh, you probably just worked more and picked up extra shifts. During this time, I was going through an abusive marriage, a divorce, becoming a single mom all over again, like going through some real heavy life stuff. So I did not have the time to pick up extra jobs. I just had to work with what I had to work with. And I was still, I'm telling you, went from having nothing in my bank account, no savings at all, to being able to throw thousands of dollars a month at my student loans. And so that's what I did. I budgeted for it. And more times than not, I met my goals. Most of the times I exceeded my goals on how much I could pay off. And so I knocked those things out. I just paid it off. During this time also, like I said, I was going through a divorce, so I had to pay for my divorce. Because of the way that I was paying off my loans and I stopped investing, and going through the divorce, I had a huge tax bill. So I had like thrown like $30,000 in debt on top of that to the IRS. And so towards the end, I decided that I was going to move, and I sold my house. And so when I got to the point where I was going to sell my house, the remaining debt that I had on my student loans was about $19,000, and the rest of my debt was like from my divorce. So I paid all that off, sold my house, and then was ultimately debt free at the end. So most people think like, oh, you just sold your house and wiped out your debt. No. Before I sold my house, I had already paid off over $300,000 of debt, and that's just from throwing money at my debt.
So I think there are 25 people in the room. I think that's enough people where we could just pass the mic. We're going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
So Renata has a question, so I'm going to pass it to her.
Hi, Naseema.
Hey, girl.
My question is, so you mentioned the snowball effect,
Mm-hmm.
which I know you tackled different loans within, that list of student loan debt you have. I've seen different recommendations where you start with a small amount or a larger amount. Which one did you do? And would you recommend it to other people? And then my other question is, did you have any creative ways of cutting costs from your spending and budgeting, like some tangible ways for you to I don't know, instead of getting paper towels, you get hand towels, and so that cuts off the cost from grocery shopping. What are some creative ways that you also saved money, if that makes sense?
I love it. Okay. So this is the part of the question I forgot to answer in this last one. But so the debt snowball is when you pay the smallest debt, list out all your debts from smallest balance to largest balance, pay the smallest balance aggressively while paying the minimum payments on the rest. And that's what I did. So I did the debt snowball. The debt avalanche is when you do interest rates and stuff like that. So I did the debt snowball. The debt snowball works. It works. People will tell you that, oh, it's dumb, you should be attacking your highest interest rate debt. But to me, listen, the way I got into debt wasn't because I was doing math. The way I got into debt was, it was all psychological. And the debt snowball is psychological wins. So I had to psych my way out of the debt. And so, yes, I would recommend the debt snowball. What I would not recommend is what I did was stop investing while I was paying off my debt. And I probably would have stayed on my student loan, probably extended the amount of time that I was paying off my student loan debt, because ultimately in those years that I was throwing all my money into debt, I could have been actually saving $80,000. So I missed out on saving $80,000 during those years, which would have went into my future, saving for my future. And, but I'm not, no regrets. Like I said, you guys are going to meet with Travis. He's going to put you on game. Like if I would have met with Travis and did a consultation with him, I would have stayed on my public student loan forgiveness. I could have dropped how much I was paying in my student loans, because one of the reasons why I wanted to get rid of it is because I was paying $1,900 a month in student loan payments. Okay. That was my minimum. So he knew how I could have dropped it during that time and been able to maximize my 401k and 403b my 403b and 457 during that time, which would have amassed me $80,000. And that's just before interest in anything. So hope that answers your question.
And we just got a question in the chat about how do you invest? Like, what?
How do I what? Wait, I'm sorry. Renata, listen, let me finish this because I forgot to answer the second part of your question about cutting expenses. Guess what, Renata? I realized that I was spending money on stupid stuff that I didn't even know I was spending money on because I just wasn't paying attention to it. And actually, I didn't really cut anything out. I don't believe in deprivation. Like if you know me, I like nice things, okay? I have not one, but 2 Teslas. Like I don't play games when it comes to how I spend money, because I feel like you should be relentless about the things that you care about. And during that time, a lot of the things that I cared about was with like experiences with my daughter. So we had bi-monthly trips to Disneyland, and I live 8 hours away from Disneyland. So that means a flight, a hotel, and Disney passes. But I prioritize that. So for me, it wasn't about cutting. It was about like being very intentional about how I spent my money. And that's what a budget represents to me. Like it represents like the freedom to spend the money on the things that are important to me. And I think that's a shift that a lot of people have to make when it comes to budget, because it's not about saying, oh, I can't do that. It's about the things that you get to do. So I didn't cut nothing, Renata.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Questions, but I'm going to slide this in here because this is something that you taught me, Naseema. You were the first person to be like, Ashley, fat fire. Like, don't just ride your bike 7 miles to work and eat, beans and rice. Like, increase your income so you can live the life that you want to live instead of just, living like a homeless person, which is what I was, you know what I mean? That's what I was doing. Like,
so listen, there are infinite ways to make money. Infinite ways to make money, but you could only cut your budget so many times. There's only so many things you can cut back on, but there ain't no limit. So have faith in the fact that money is out there and you can always increase how much money you have coming in.
So thank you for that, because you in that way. But people want to know, we've gotten a couple questions on this. How did you learn how to invest? What did you invest in? Is investing hard? How do I start? I don't know.
Yes, let's talk about it, because that's a whole nother mental thing that I had to get over, because what I didn't mention in this story was before I went to nursing school, actually, as I was applying to nursing school, I was actually applying for bankruptcy, okay? Because during the housing crisis, in the early 2000s, like, first of all, I'm a Black girl from West Oakland, never really taught how to invest, but I knew that my family, the people who had wealth in my family owned real estate. And so I was like, okay, so I got to invest in real estate. And Ashley is the real estate mogul, but I didn't do it the right way. I did it the wrong way. And, I wasn't in a place to invest. So of course I bought 5 houses at 25. During the housing crisis, and basically long story short, lost all those houses except for 1, 2 to foreclosures, 2 to short sales. And so I was scared of investing, because that to me meant I was investing, and I was scared because I had royally effed up in my early 20s, which caused me to file bankruptcy. And so to me, I thought investing was trading, and that was so risky, and I didn't want to do it. But the one book that changed it for me was A Simple Path to Wealth to J.L. Collins. And then I realized it does not have to be hard. hard. It's really easy. And I wish I would have known this earlier. And this is something that our kids need to know. Like, building wealth is hella easy. Investing is hella easy, you guys. Like, all you have to do is set a certain amount aside, learn your investment like platforms, and know the little folders you're going to put your investment in, and just invest in the top companies in the US. Pick an index fund or an exchange traded fund that follows the index, and you'll be cool. You'll own the top companies in the world. And if one company falls off, it'll fall off the index. You don't have to worry about losing all your money because one company went down. It'll self-adjust. Just keep on putting your money in there. You don't have to be sophisticated. You don't have to be a trader. You don't have to learn about the market. You don't have to watch the news. All you got to do is make sure you consistently contribute in. That's it.
Sam Duplantis has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ashley. Hi, Naseema. So,
Hey.
thank you for doing this, and thank you, Ashley, for setting it up. So I have a little bit of a weird, background that I bring to my question. So I was an attorney for years. It's almost embarrassing I'm asking this question now. I was too busy working to worry much about money. And then Yale's not cheap. So made a lot of money, but now I'm spending it on school. But that kind of brings me to my question. So I've had a hard time deciding between, do I basically use the savings I have to pay for school? And then when I come out of school, I'm debt free. But I'm starting over and I'm not young. I'm 34. This is totally a second career. Or do I, take out student loans or do it like I'm starting from the beginning, and then I will have debt, but I also have money to invest. And I think that's been a difficult question for me to just sort of figure out how to approach it. Do you have any advice on that?
Why can't you do it all? That's the whole thing, is that I think that we think that we have to do one thing or the other, and that's what jacked me up. That's what got me in the position that I'm in. And do it all. You don't have to. You pay as much as you can towards school. If you got to take out student loan debt, it's not the end of the world. It's simple interest. It's a simple interest debt. I think that there is some freedom in being debt free, but I also think that the freedom that you get for making sure that you have money in order to maximize your life, i.e. invest, is like superior. Okay. And so I would just lay out a plan where you figure out what's that balance. Like, you don't have to invest a lot of money. I mean, you're 34. I didn't even start on this path until I was like 36, if that gives you any kind of hope. I know I look young, but I'm not that young. So it did take me a little bit of time to get on this path. And you'll see that once things shift and when things start rolling, they'll start accumulating really, really fast. So I would say, first of all, another thing is we save in the bank way too much money as women. And a lot of nurses are women, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not knocking you men, but make your money work for you. And let me tell you what I do. I have $1,000 in my credit union across the street from my house, ironically, that I have access to. Then I put 3 to 6 months of my expenses, my household expenses, in an emergency fund. The rest is invested. Or in your case, it would go to paying like your tuition, like as much as you can. Okay, and my investments are in low cost index funds or exchange traded funds.
Okay, that's really helpful, because I love what Ashley does with the real estate, but a lot of the sort of options for investing seem like they require a lot of time and energy to sort of figure out how to do it. But it sounds like
no, girl. We gonna stop right here, and then after this presentation, you gonna go ahead and open up your account, and you gonna set up as something. You gonna I can't give you no investment advice because I'm not an investment advisor, but you're gonna say, what is the best exchange traded fund that tracks the market, and invest in that and you'll be just fine. Whether it's through Vanguard, Fidelity, I like a platform called M1, TD Ameritrade. Those are the places that I recommend that you invest in. Open up your account. Since you're in school, you don't have access to a 401k or 403b. So make sure so this is what I would tell you. Make sure that you're getting as close to as possible as to the $6,000 that you can invest in a Roth IRA right now. Okay, so open up a Roth IRA and just put as much in there as you can, as much as you can. I'm not saying you got to max it out, but try to get as close to as possible to $6,000 a year. And you still have until May to fund next year so that you can do this year's too. Not May, but April 15th. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next question. Since you went to, as you stated, our rival school, UCSF, do you have any advice for us as future nurse practitioners that you wish you knew when we were in our position?
Listen, nursing school traumatized me. So let me just tell you that if you think that this experience is hard and challenging and like one of the hardest things that you have to do in your life, like, you're right. But guess what? It's going to be okay. Like, you see on my bio that I'm a labor and delivery nurse. I have been licensed as an NP for so long, but because of nursing school, I'm not an NP. And that's not the truth. Actually, it's just because in California, it's not worth it to be an NP. And I don't really like clinic. I think it's pretty boring, and I love bringing life into this world. And so that's why I don't use my NP. But that's not to discourage you guys from being NPs, because I think that, it's a much needed profession, and I can use it for other stuff. And so keep on getting it. Keep on pursuing it. But the thing is that nursing school is just your foundation. Get through it and you'll learn the stuff that you need to learn when you get into your job. That's it, and that's all. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Nursing school is for the... I love nursing school. That's what I should be saying, but I got to keep it real with you guys because, I know I'm talking to the School of Nursing. I know that this is a Yale-sponsored event, but you guys, that is hard. It's hard. And I've been out of school for almost 12 years, and I still feel it. So just get through it. It's okay. You'll get what you need out of it. And you'll be able to become nurse millionaires and give back and, impact, change, and all those kind of things. But that's all I can say. It's just, it'll be all right.
I think you just preached to a lot of people. I think a lot of people just felt that.
I hope so, because I still feel it, girl. My heart was like, nursing school,
Yeah, I felt it. I won't speak for nobody else, but okay. Next question. What we have not talked about a lot is, we talked about you being a nurse, but you are an entrepreneur as well. How? Question mark. How do you even, I feel like, when you work with healthcare, they're almost pitted against each other, because it's like, you shouldn't be making money. You should be taking care of people. And if you're taking care of people, you shouldn't be making money doing that. How were you able to be so successful in business as a nurse?
Well, I would say that I'll take it from this angle. Like, I had to do this. Like, I had to share my story. I was always taught, like, each one teach one. When you learn something, when you get something, you reach back. And this is my way of like reaching back and making sure I bring as many people to the table as I can. So this is really a labor of love, because it's not easy. I've made it easy over the years, easier for me over the years, but this is my service. This is why I do what I do. This is why I build wealth. because I need to encourage as many people as possible that they can get there. And no, you don't have to start no business. I showed you the diagram. If you missed it earlier, you can get the FIRE calculator from what's it called? Playingwithfire.co, and they have a calculator there. But it doesn't have to be hard, like, to build wealth. It's really, really, really simple, but we're just not taught taught like the tools and how to do it. But this is why I do it. And it's a pure passion, it's a pure drive, and it is hard. But when I see like people that I follow pay off massive debt, when I see people that I follow be able to walk away from a toxic work environment and chill for months at a time in another country and just live their best life, like, this is why I do it. This is why I do it, because just me sharing my story gives people the opportunity to see what's possible for them. Aww. Don't cry.
Yeah,
Be crying.
Question.
Yeah.
First, thank you for that answer. I know you mentioned or you recommended a Roth IRA.
Yes.
And I know there's like traditional IRA and like other kinds of IRAs. Would you say that's the best in comparison to those, or just do what's best given like whatever your own circumstances are? Or
it's you have to do what's best according to your circumstances. But I think a Roth IRA at a minimum, especially you guys, if you're in school right now, at a minimum, that's what you should be doing, because you want to get the tax savings. Like when you go to pull out that money. And I feel like you have plenty of time to fund traditional vehicles, like the same thing as a traditional IRA would be similar to your 401k or 403b, because it's pre-tax, so you get the tax credit at the end of the year. It's pre-tax, but you have to wait until the end of the year to get the credit, right? So I say you have plenty of opportunity when you're in your career to try to maximize. And I max out my 403b, I max out my 457, and so that's what I encourage nurses to do. Even if you just start with 10%. When you first get started, like, your goal should ultimately be to max those things out. But right now, where you're at, do what you can in a 403, in a Roth, and I think that's the best vehicle. Yeah.
I remember you also mentioned like even starting off with 15% can get you pretty far. Did you start off with like 50 or 15 or like 30?
So I started off with I started off saving 10%. And then once I got on this path to like paying off my debt, I actually stopped. And that's when I owed the IRS $30,000, because I work in California as a nurse. And I'll just let you know, like, during that time I was making, and I had 2 jobs. So I had a full-time job. I had a part-time benefited job, I should say, and then a per diem job. And I was making about $230,000 a year. So I was at a pretty high tax rate. And the government was like, you don't have no write-offs, so you're going to have to pay us, because I wasn't investing. So if I would have been maxing out my retirement accounts, that would have dropped my taxable income. Therefore, I would have not had to owe that. And plus I was going through a divorce, and the way that I had to pay file my taxes was different. But all of those things made me have to pay $30,000 to the IRS. And so invest. Max out, put as much as possible. And the thing is, like, when you guys go into your careers, y'all used to being broke. You a student. Like, don't let lifestyle inflation like creep up on you. I know Sam was a lawyer before. She ain't working. She ain't practicing right now. You living the student life, girl. So stay in that mode for a little while. Adjust your and the thing is like, I maximize my 401k and my 403b and my 457, which is almost what, $1950, so almost $40,000 a year into my account, and I don't feel the effects of it. So I try to optimize, I try to maximize what you can from the beginning, and just shift your lifestyle around that. And the thing is that if you do that in the beginning, you'll notice you won't fall as victim to lifestyle creep, which is meaning that you just spend the amount of money that you make. Just start off like that. Like, just go hard in the beginning. You ain't got to work that hard for the rest of your life.
But at first you did start with 10%, and then
I did, but that's because I didn't know. Yeah. Okay. And now, all my money goes into investing.
Out as much.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything.
And then you also mentioned a high yield savings account. Would you like, are those like the Roth IRA and traditional IRAs, or
no? That's a good question, Renata. So you
feel like a high
yield savings account. So a couple of options right now. And I actually am transferring my money out of a high yield savings account to actually a Bitcoin fixed income account right now. So that pays about 4%. But for a high yield savings account, you can go to a site like NerdWallet. I love NerdWallet because they have really good articles and stuff. But just because the rates changed almost daily, so you want to type in best high yield savings accounts, and I think like right now it's probably American Express. Lo and behold, right? So they have like about a 2% return. So don't let your money sit in a bank if you have more than $1,000 in there. You just throwing away money, because inflation is 3%, you guys. So at least you can kind of fight it a little bit with these high yield accounts. But that's why I'm even transferring my money to a different account with a higher yield, so I can at least be on top of inflation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I see that Devin has her hand raised. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question, Devin?
Yep. Hi, Naseema.
Hey, Devin.
Hey. Okay, so my question is, I don't know if you've heard about Nurse Corps and if you had an opinion about it. It's where you can, I think, work for 3 years after graduation. You can get 60%, I think, of your student loans relieved.
Yes.
Yep, that's my question.
Yes, I have heard of it. And for me, it didn't make sense because like I said, I had a very high income in California, and let me just say, California is very big. So let me just break it down. In the geographic region that I live and work in, we get paid the highest salaries in the world. So for me, it didn't make sense to go to Nurse Corps because the amount of money that I was losing, I could have just paid off the debt with that. Now, if I was optimizing and I was really trying to drop my expenses and increase my investing, I would have looked at it like that. But at that time, I wasn't looking at it. And I was like thinking about like, how much money can I throw at this debt? So I know a lot of people that have gone through Nurse Corp and have successfully paid down loans. And so I just say, if it makes sense for you, do it. I highly recommend it. I think that if you can have somebody pay off your loans, 100%. Okay, if Biden is out here trying to write checks, go ahead. I thought Obama was going to pay off my loans, but he didn't do it. He didn't even hook us up. So, you know, I'm still a little salty about that. But if somebody's going to do it, let them do it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to hop in before Lauren asks her question. Next week, Naseema talks about Travis is speaking. Travis started a company called Student Loan Planner, and he is a human computer when it comes to all programs that regard paying off your student loan debt. So I would definitely come next week and ask him about kind of like the logistics and the cogs and nuts and bolts about each of, you know, Nurse and NHSC and all those programs.
The other thing he's a computer with is policy. So in state specific, down to the state and local level, he will tell you, like, if in your state you qualify for X, Y, and Z, and this is what you should do. So y'all need to really hit him up before you come with the questions. Like, write them down. Like, look at your loans. Go to your student loan site and whatever programs. Like, I'm telling you, Travis has game for days.
Lauren?
Oh, thank you. Naseema, thank you so much. This has been such a great presentation. And full disclosure, I grew up in Delaware, and a Roth IRA was started by a Delaware senator a long time ago. So I'm like super excited to hear about Roth IRAs right now, because that's like one of the only things people know Delaware for. So thank you. I just wanted to circle back to, you know, in the beginning where you talked about, you know, this wonderful normalizing of wealth and using it to, you know, to help other people. And that that, like Ashley was saying, it's not like these are mutually exclusive things where you can't make money and also take care of people. So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about, you know, at this stage of your career, at this stage of your life as a mother of 2 young children, you know, what is your philanthropic philosophy like at this point? Like, what is, like, you talk so much about, you know, sharing your story and your podcasting to share the stories of others. But I just wondered if you could explore that a little bit more.
My philanthropic approach is, first, I have charities that I donate to, but the big thing is I give out a lot of free content every week, free resources. I give out, I talk to people constantly. I work with people for free. And so that's a lot of what I do to give back. I mean, I think that's where I'm at right now. I mean, like I always, like, in my budget have a certain amount of money that I donate to charities, and the charities that I donate to are in Africa, and, you know, for literacy and for feeding these kids. And so that's that. But shoot, I mean, the way I give back right now is all the stuff that I'm doing. Like, this is very time consuming, it's very expensive, and I put out a lot of free content for people.
I can't wait to download the podcast. That's going to be like my next action item. So thank you so much.
Boo. Thank you. Thank you.
Next is Sam.
One more question for you, Naseema.
Okay,
and actually, by the way, I love your podcast.
Thank you.
So I am curious. I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to confirm. Once you decide to invest, I know that if it's something like a Roth IRA, a Roth IRA, or if it's 401k, then you get to put pre-tax money into it, which is obviously a tax savings. But if you're investing after-tax income into an index fund, or you know, any kind of, I guess, largely index funds, you don't pay any additional tax on that money, correct? And unless you take it out and use it, is that correct?
That is partially correct. It's a little bit complicated. Like, technically, like, to really answer your question is, you are liable for certain taxes on it, but it's like so minimal. It's just like whatever. Like, they'll send you a statement. It's just like $4 or something, whatever. But the thing is that, like, anytime there's any kind of sell off in those accounts, like, say, like Tesla was the big dog and then they fell off, so they had to replace it with another company. So there was an event where they sold some of those stocks within the fund that you invested in. It does create a taxable event, and then you can be taxed for that. Or dividends, if they're not reinvested, you can be taxed for that. But I mean, it's so minimal. It's just like, I don't know, people worry about taxes on stuff like this, and I'm just like, you ain't got enough money to be worrying about the taxes on it, because it's not really going to affect you.
And then, so you're saying if you are given dividends, then if you reinvest those, that would be one way to avoid taxable income on that.
Yeah, usually I just reinvest and the thing is that even if you do, I mean, it's not, unless you have like millions and millions of dollars in there, it's not going to trigger a really big taxable event.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Hey.
So you talk a lot about paying off your loans and looking into like different programs versus paying them on your own. I started nursing school since 2010, and I was in school for what ended up being 6 years, and then I worked for a little bit, and now I'm back in school. And Yale is a lot more than what I paid for my undergrad. And my question is, in terms of like paying off interest when you're not making a good amount of money versus like letting things sit there. And I think for a while I had a very toxic relationship with my loans of pretending they don't exist. And I kind of wish I paid more on the front end when I see like how much is secured now. But what was your approach with that? Do you pay as much as you can? Do you pay what you have to pay and then invest the rest?
I thought I told you. I'm from Oakland, okay? Nobody did tell me nothing about paying off no loans in school. So I was just like, oh, they giving me these loans. I'm about to have these loans. Like, I just remember in undergrad thinking I was balling out when I got my little loan checks. And, you know, so I didn't pay nothing. Mm-hmm. So don't feel bad. I was one of those people that thought like student loans was just the thing. Like I was taught it was good debt. I was taught, you know, just like pay it whenever. So like, I didn't pay anything until, I mean, except for the minimum payments until, and I'm even embarrassed to say, like, I got a year when I signed up for public student loan forgiveness. I mean, always makes up things up, but you know, public service loan forgiveness. I got a year of 0 payments, and you think I would be like maximizing how I spend my money, girl. I don't know where that money went. I didn't have so don't feel bad. Just start where you are. Like if you in school and you ain't got the money to pay it, I'd rather you put that money in a Roth and then just wait. So don't feel bad, girl. I ain't paid nothing. I'm okay. I paid it.
Thank you.
But what I did get mad about was when I was seeing that I was making these payments and my balance was like not going anywhere. And that's why I got pissed off and was like, these loans got to go. So that there are ways that you can optimize it, but I strongly encourage it, especially, and I think that sometimes people that say just stop paying off, stop, you know, investing and pay towards your debt are coming from a little bit of place of privilege in that they don't have the same responsibilities as people that look like me do to themselves, to other people, and we got to invest. Because we all we got. So if you know, if you receive that, you receive, you know what I'm saying? I ain't got to say no more. Okay.
To add on to that, I have a question about like strategically paying off student loan debt. I've also heard this recommendation that if you, like we get a monthly, like this is how much you owe, like splitting that into 2. So for example, if it's like $200, like one week you pay 100 and then the other week you pay 100, because then one would go to like the principal and one goes to like the interest or something like that.
No, well, how that works
is that not, or
no, how that works is that, you know how we have those months that have an extra week? That's why that works. And so basically you're just making 2 extra payments. That's what people say about mortgages and all that stuff too, right? When you're paying off your debt, just pay it off how you gonna play it off, how Travis tells you to pay it off. It is, stick to that, okay? And that's it. But yeah, that's what it is. Like you could, if you want to just make an extra 2 loan payments, that is the same thing. I mean, it's effective, but it's just it's a strategy.
So Naseema, that is all the time that we allotted. Does anyone, if you're okay with it, I'm okay with hanging around for any last minute questions, but it is 6 o'clock. Naseema, is that okay?
Yeah, no, I'm down. You know, I like kicking it with y'all. I can hang out for as long as you want. My whole thing is I want to get all the questions answered. I want people to feel like they're heard, listened to, and get their, you know, questions out there. So that's my thing. I'll stay as long as you want.
Perfect. I'm gonna stop talking for a couple minutes because I think there is a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hey.
Hi, this is Kendry. Hi, everyone. Hi, Naseema. Thank you so much for dropping this knowledge.
You're
and I'd love to.
You muted yourself, or somebody muted you, Kendry. Sorry.
Hello? Yeah. I'm back. Okay,
yeah.
sorry. So
okay.
How did you start up your own business while trying to maintain a certain salary or benefits? To be honest, benefits is where a lot of us are. When we look at a job, you can look at salary, but a lot of us are also, you know, struggling with those benefits because we need it for our kids or we need it for ourselves. And so I heard you say something about like having a full-time job and doing per diem and pulling in 200 plus for that. I mean, what kind of hours were you pulling? But then how did you all make that work to start it up?
So, I mean, okay. So let me talk about how I started the business. So it wasn't intentionally started as a business. I just was sharing my story as I was paying off debt, like all the lessons that I learned. Basically, I don't like repeating myself. I wanted my friends to know what I was doing. Most of us have girls, and I wanted the next generation to be empowered. And so I was like, we had a slumber party at my house, and I was like, listen, I'm learning these things. I want you guys to know it. Like, if I started like a blog or like an Instagram, and would you guys like follow that in order to learn? And it was like, yes. And then hence Financially Intentional was born. So it didn't start out as a business. It started out as just a way for me to share the information with my friends so I didn't have to repeat myself. And then as I started growing, and then people started wanting to know more and like learn, then I started doing more like consulting and speaking and courses and things like that. And then it became a business. And so that's that. Then the nursing stuff, like with my salary, like, so I work like a normal person. So with the part-time benefited job and the per diem, I work 48 hours a week. So, I mean, like, that's normal, right? I mean, most people work 40 hours a week, but people in tech work like 100 hours a week, right? And so that's all I did. Like, I didn't do anything extraordinary. I don't feel like. It's just that the way that I wanted it structured was my part-time job gave me my benefits, so I didn't have to do full-time, but I also had the flexibility to pick up per diem, which, you know, pays a lot more. So, if that makes sense. But yeah. Thanks, Kendry. You muted, Ashley.
I'm trying to give people, because I have, okay, I'm just going to say this, because I feel like a lot of people, I feel like we have a similar story where it's people are just like, you sold a house, you paid off your debt. And you cheat yourself by doing that. You cheat yourself by not listening to Naseema's story, because you just throw out this wealth like of knowledge, right? I mean, here comes Naseema with this bag of coins, and you're just like, nope, no, thank you.
But actually, what I had to learn was that that's the way people deal with not handling their stuff, their own stuff. They have to justify that the way that you did it was some kind of extraordinary way that's not approachable for them. And then when I come and be like, nah, but actually it's like this, they don't have the capacity for it. And so that's not my people. That's not my audience.
That's real.
And I can't help everybody. And I'm not for everybody. A lot of people can't handle this. And that's okay. But I know that I'm put here on this earth to speak to those people who can receive what I'm saying. And I had to be okay with that. I used to try to help everybody. I don't help my family. I don't try to explain it to them because they don't get it. In the back end, they'll come to me later. But, you know, like I used to try to break it down to people, and they're not trying to hear you unless they're ready. So it's just like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and I'm here for you when you need me. So I can't worry about people that think like that.
I feel like you're talking. Let me close this out. Right? I don't know who. I feel like you're talking.
I'm just talking. I mean, like, you just don't understand. Like, when you put yourself out there, you get trolled. You get those people who are just like, oh, you only did this because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, obviously you can't read because it's like right there. And then I get called like, you know, all kind of names because now I'm insulting them. But I'm really not. I mean, like, just like read the story. Like, I put everything out there. I'm super open. I'm super like honest. Like, I couldn't lie if like I'm not that person. Like, I keep it real 100% of the time. And so that's why, like, when people come at me like that, I just be like, well, you're not for this. This is not for you then. But when you're ready, slide back through. I'll help you.
I have a question now. Like, you said student. I was like, great. I have another question. So currently, as a nursing student, like, again, like, we're taking on student loans, and right now we're just focused on being a student. But I know there are some people who do have jobs while in nursing school. That's like part-time and they make some cash on the side. So I do have a part-time job, and my goal is to use that money to save it and have all that money go towards my undergraduate student loan debt. Because I know I'm racking up a lot of money while being at Yale. And then when I do graduate, I'll be focused more on like the debt that I've accrued over the years at Yale, excuse me. So I was just wondering, like, is that a good approach? And if not, do you have other recommendations and ways that you could potentially tackle some of like other debt that you have while being a student at the same time?
That is a really, really good question for Travis. Because what he's going to tell you, and I'm not saying I can answer it, and I really want to answer it, but I think you'll get like the absolute best, like plan down to the details from Travis, because he's going to tell you like, oh, no, don't pay that off because then you'll qualify for X, Y, and Z. And then it'll go into this bucket and da-da-da-da. You know what I'm saying? Like that is his wheelhouse. Okay. And I can tell you what I would do, but it might not be the optimized way.
Okay.
And because you guys have the luxury of speaking to Travis, do ask Travis that question. Like,
can I know what you did too, though? Just have a reference.
What'd you say? Oh, so what I would do is, I mean, and that's the whole thing. Like my answer kind of depends too. First of all, I wouldn't be sitting on savings like that. I told you I don't like saving, but that's me, right? That's me. You kind of got to know what kind of person you are, your money personality, and that's the whole thing about the mindset thing. You kind of have to know. I don't like sitting on a lot of money. If my money ain't working for me, like Kunta Kinte, I ain't messing with it. You know, like I don't want money sitting around that's not working hard for me. So I don't feel like money that is sitting in the bank is working for me. So it's got to be doing something. It's got to be paying down those loans. It's got to be invested. It's got to be doing something. And my thing for you is decide what you want it to do. Make it work. Stop letting it sit there, getting eaten up by inflation. Choose what you want to do and do it. And you ain't going to be wrong.
Okay.
Okay, but like I said, Travis will be like, no, this is the optimal way to do it. So
okay, I felt that because I feel like I do have a lot in my savings that's just sitting there. It's
girl, that makes my
I'm gonna run with that
palpitations. That ain't doing nothing for you, girl. It's looking pretty. It's looking pretty on somebody else's balance.
But now I need
but it's not on your balance sheet because it could be sitting in an index fund somewhere and it could be making money. So yeah. Or it could be knocking down those loans, which brings up your net worth. So, you know, there we go.
Before we go too much further, Naseema, where can everybody find you?
Oh, I should have shared that information.
No.
So financiallyintentional.com, Financially Intentional on Instagram, Nurses on Fire on Instagram, and Nurses on Fire podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. I appreciate you guys who have listened to the podcast. I also have a book that's actually being released in March called Smart Money. You can pre-order that at Amazon, and apparently it's like ranking already, so it's pretty easy to find under Smart Money on Amazon. So I would appreciate if you guys want to know all this stuff, just all wrapped up pretty in a bow in a book. That's where you can find it.
And I have bought my copy to give to a fellow Gepin student.
Yay, you're so sweet.
Yeah. Before I just talk to Naseema, because I like talking to her, and you look like you have a question. No?
Whose name did you say?
Lauren.
Oh, Lauren? Oh, okay.
So what made you turn to real estate the first time when you were in your 20s? How did you get into real estate?
That's funny. So like I said, like my grandfather owned houses. My uncle owned houses. Like he owned the house that I was born in. I was like literally born in my house. For you midwives out there, yes, I was a home birth and I didn't turn out so bad. I'm just like but anyway, so like that's all I knew was that's how to invest. And like I wanted to be smart with my money. I wanted to invest in my 20s. And so everybody was getting into real estate. And I don't know if you guys know a personal finance personality. Her name is Patrice Cunningham. Patrice Washington. I'm sorry, that's her. I'm giving out her maiden name, girl, because I've been knowing her since I was. We went to college together, and yeah, so we've been friends since 1999. And so okay, and I did hair all through college. So let me tell you my real estate story. I did hair all through college, and the hair shop that I had was in a real estate building. So, and my friend who owned it went to school with me too. She was a year ahead of me, and her mom owned it, and they worked in the real estate business. So I had that. So they were like, oh, you should buy a house. And then I had Patrice, who was starting her real estate business at that time. So that's how I amassed 5 houses. I bought 2 houses through them, and I bought, I think 3 houses through Patrice. And so that's how I got started, because that's all I knew. That's what I was surrounded with. And that's how I got started. So yeah, me and Patrice have been through a lot together, because if you guys don't know her story, she was in real estate. She had a multi-million-dollar real estate company and lost it all. She went from being multi-millionaire, houses in Pasadena, double Range Rovers with her husband, to sleeping on her brother's couch. And that's how she built her personal finance platform. And we went through that. Like when she was losing her house, I mean, like when I was getting a house built in Atlanta, the construction company like stopped coming, like stopped showing up to my work site. Like she had to send her brother over there to knock on their door, because of course we found out where they live, to come and finish my house. Like we have gone through a lot together. We lost our houses at the same time, like a lot. So that was like my real estate story. And so you know, I'm not very bullish on real estate, but that's why.
If you don't know who Patrice Washington is, I would definitely recommend looking her up as well. I did not know that. You guys are kind of like, I'm not cool, so I can't make a pop reference. But name like big pop reference, and that's kind of like you two of the FIRE community.
Not me. I'm not big. Like Patrice has a very big platform. I mean, she was on the Steve Harvey show. She does national TV appearances. I'm just a peon. I'm still a labor and delivery nurse. Okay, so
you can look up Naseema's Forbes article by Googling her name, followed by multiple articles. Too many to list. Literally too many to list. But we are about 15 minutes over time. I want to make sure that I say thank you so much, Naseema McElroy, for spending tonight with us and just dropping so many gems. Please, you know, if you ever feel like coming and talking to nursing students, you are always more than welcome at the Yale School of Nursing. I'm just so grateful to know you, and I'm just so grateful for everything that we've done. This is next month will be our one year anniversary. So everything you've taught me over the past year.
Our 1 year anniversary. I love it, girl. Thank you. I really appreciate you, Ashley, for even considering me to come speak. Thank you, Yale School of Nursing, for you know, giving this little poor Black girl from West Oakland a chance to come speak at this so prestigious school. I'm so honored. Like, I don't feel worthy. You know, I'm still a little hood, and I get to speak at Yale. I'm just like, hey. So I'm really honored, and I really appreciate you guys. This has really been great. And like I said, if I can be a resource in any way, I'm here for you guys. I know what you guys have been through. I've been there, done it, wrote a book about it, girl. So, you know, I got y'all back. Like, I'm telling you, slide in these DMs. Like, I am your support. And if in those times where you struggling and you on your floor crying, like I have been many a nights, you know, I'm here for you. Reach out to me. But, you know, you can do it. If I could do it, you could do it. So I didn't even tell y'all the story about how I got held back in nursing school. So that's for another episode. So yeah, I got held back in the 30th grade.
For all it's worth, you definitely are worthy. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come talk to Yale. I'll end it with that.
Of course. Sorry my kids couldn't make an appearance. They would have just tore up the whole presentation.